It was a quiet afternoon in a quiet Detroit neighborhood. Some residents walked their dogs, enjoying the calm weather, and among them was an older black man, dressed in an elegant dark grey suit, walking leisurely, as if the world around him didn't interest him. His name was Leandro Muniz. By 1973, Leandro had gained respect as a congressman in the United States. However, on that peaceful afternoon, he seemed like just another resident enjoying the neighborhood. As he walked, his thoughts were far from politics and laws. That place had been his home for years, a space of peace where everyone felt welcomed. But security may just be a facade, and fate was about to test that sense of tranquility. As he turned the corner of a narrow street, Leandro noticed a police car slowing down and following him at a short distance. The vehicle stopped suddenly, and Officer Jonas Warwick got out of it. Jonas was a burly man, known in the region for his excessively authoritarian behavior. Many residents avoided crossing his path. His fame included stories of unnecessarily aggressive approaches, especially toward black people in the neighborhood. Today, Leandro was under his suspicious gaze. "Hey, you there!" Jonas shouted as he walked towards Leandro, his heavy steps echoing on the asphalt. Leandro turned around slowly, keeping his expression calm, but he couldn't help but be curious. "Ooh, well, officer, can I help you?" he replied politely. Jonas's tone was full of prejudice. "What's a guy like you doing here? Looking for something? Drugs? Property theft?" Leandro was perplexed by the hostile approach. Still, he responded calmly. "I live in this neighborhood, just taking a walk. Is there a problem?" Jonas ignored the explanation. His gaze swept Leandro from top to bottom, as if he was looking for some reason to justify his distrust. "I want to see your identification," ordered the police officer, crossing his arms as if expecting resistance. Without hesitation, Leandro moved cautiously, opening the inside pocket of his jacket. He took out his wallet and handed the document to the police officer. "Here it is. I'm Leandro Muniz, congressman from the United States." Jonas looked at the document with a mixture of skepticism and contempt. He fixed his eyes on Leandro and, with a sarcastic smile, asked, "Congressman, huh? And what's a congressman doing walking around here? Trying to cover up some scandal? Do you think a title will get you out of trouble?" The tension on the street was beginning to attract curious looks, but Jonas seemed indifferent to the growing crowd. Some people peered through the windows, while others stood at a distance, watching silently. Some more attentive neighbors already had their cell phones in hand, ready to record what they felt was a tense and potentially dangerous situation. Leandro remained calm, but his patience was being tested. "Officer, I just want to go home. I don't want any problems," he said, keeping his tone firm but respectful. But Jonas Warwick was not willing to end it there. He moved even closer, his hand sliding towards his gun holster as if he was ready to draw it at any moment. "I've seen many like you, thinking they are above the law. Well, not with me," he barked, his predatory gaze fixed on Leandro. The tension in the air was palpable. The silence in the neighborhood was now heavy, broken only by the murmurs of spectators and the sound of Leandro's controlled breathing. He knew that reacting the wrong way could be disastrous, but he would not give in to intimidation. "I'm not a threat to you, officer," he declared, his hands raised in view to avoid any misunderstanding. But Leandro's calm seemed to only irritate Jonas even more. "You think you're better than me, don't you?" said the policeman, his voice full of contempt. "Do you think that nice suit of yours and the title will save you?" More people gathered to watch, some whispering among themselves, others openly recording the scene. Leandro remained standing still, firm, without giving in to the urge to retreat. "I'm asking you to control yourself before this goes too far," Leandro said again, his voice still calm but full of authority. Jonas, however, seemed overcome with wounded pride. He had something to prove, both to his neighbors and to himself. In one quick movement, He drew his gun, pointing it directly at Leandro. The audience's murmurs turned to sighs. Cell phones focused closer, capturing every second of the perilous climb. Leandro remained motionless, breathing deeply, his hands visible and unshakable. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he said, his voice full of dignity. Jonas's finger trembled on the trigger. It was at that moment that a black car with official license plates appeared on the street and stopped close to the confusion. The door opened, and a tall man in his 40s, dressed in an elegant dark suit, walked out with purposeful steps. "What's going on here?" asked the man, his authoritative voice cutting through the air. Jonas remained silent, his attention still fixed on Leandro. The newly arrived man approached and displayed a badge with the Senate coat of arms engraved on it. "I'm Agent Richard Palmer, personal security for Congressman Leandro Muniz," he announced, his voice firm. "Put that gun down now." Jonas, with the gun still pointed at Leandro, responded with disbelief. "That man is not a congressman. This is some kind of setup." Palmer didn't back down. His eyes fixed on the policeman were as hard as steel. "You are pointing a gun at Congressman Leandro Muniz, a member of the United States Congress. You are about to make the biggest mistake of your life." The audience was completely silent now, except for the faint sound of cell phone cameras recording everything. Jonas hesitated, his hand shaking slightly, but he still didn't lower the gun. "You're being recorded, Officer Warwick," Palmer said, looking at the cell phones around him. "Do you want to be remembered as the man who shot an unarmed congressman in broad daylight?" The tension on Jonas's face was visible. His finger was on the edge of the trigger, but something in his gaze changed. Maybe it was the realization that he had gone too far. Slowly, he lowered the gun, letting it hang at his side. A collective sigh escaped the audience as Jonas, defeated, holstered his gun. Agent Richard Palmer remained alert, his eyes fixed on Jonas Warwick, still reluctant to completely trust the officer's change in stance. Meanwhile, Leandro Muniz stood erect, with an unshakable expression, although the weight of the moment was evident in his eyes. "Officer Warwick," Palmer said firmly, "you are officially suspended. Turn in your badge and gun right now." Jonas blinked, surprised. What? You can't just—" he began to argue, but was immediately interrupted by Palmer's penetrating gaze. "You pointed a loaded gun at a United States congressman without any justification. You will face the consequences of your actions. Now, deliver." For a moment Jonas stood frozen, disbelief written all over his face. But the presence of the public, the cameras and Palmer's unquestionable authority left him with no choice. He removed his badge and gun slowly, handing them over with a humiliated expression. "You're going to regret this," he murmured, but his words were empty. He knew he had lost. Palmer turned to Leandro, now with a softer tone. "Congressman Muniz, are you all right?" Leandro sighed deeply before responding. "I'm fine, thanks, Richard." While they were talking, several official cars arrived at the scene. The police chief, visibly nervous, hurriedly left one of them. His face was red, a mixture of embarrassment and anger. "Congressman Muniz, I'm sorry about what happened. This is unacceptable," he said, trying to sound sincere. Leandro nodded, maintaining his calm posture. "I appreciate your apology, boss. But this isn't just about me. It's about how certain authorities treat people in this country. This should never have happened." The audience, who had remained silent, murmured in agreement. Many of those present had faced similar approaches before. Today, they finally felt that justice had been done, but the message was clear. It could have been any of them. As Jonas was escorted, the chief turned to Leandro. "Rest assured, Congressman. There will be an investigation, and Officer Warwick will be held accountable." Leandro nodded once again, his expression serious and contemplative. He had faced many injustices throughout his career, but today's incident was different. There, in his own community, he witnessed justice prevail immediately. Neighbors began to disperse, still commenting on what had happened. Some continued recording as Jonas was taken away. The incident would become the talk of the neighborhood for weeks, perhaps months. For Leandro Muniz, however, the episode reinforced a truth. The fight for equality and justice was far from over, but that day, at least, a small step in the right direction had been taken. Thanks for watching this far. If this story touched you or made you think, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell. This way, you'll be the first to know when we post new stories like this. Let's spread messages that matter together.